Welcome. I am so happy that you are here for our time to breathe. And I'm in a different space than usual, but it is my office space at the Temple building. Shh, don't tell anybody I was here. I like to think of this time we spend together as a small oasis, an interlude, a respite from the churning realities of our world, a break from the news, the noise, the never-ending barrage of our senses and sensibilities. I have been startled over these past many days by how this time in our history and our consciousness has brought us face to face with our breath as our true breath of life. It seems so basic, so obvious. Isn't one's breath by definition the breath of life? And yet, that is how it is identified no less than 4 times in the first few chapters of the book of Genesis, as Nishmat Chayim, or Ruach Chayim, the breath or the being or the spirit of life. The breath of life, it is so basic, so automatic, constant, instinctive, and essential that without a meditative practice or an illness, we barely think of it at all. In the last few months, however, the inability to breathe easily has become a sign of possible infection. And just last week, the world watched in horror as an innocent man cried out, "I can't breathe, I can't breathe." Now, the terror of not being able to breathe has become a rallying cry for equity, for justice, and for righteous action. I did not understand. I could not have articulated how difficult it is for millions of individuals every day to feel that they can breathe easily, fully, freely. We pray that the loss of the breath of life of this single individual may this time change our world. As events unfolded, I found myself thinking about 2 references to the breath in our tradition. One is found in the phrase, Kotzer Ruach, literally, a shortness of breath, or a shortness of spirit, an insufficiency that manifested itself when the Israelites could not hear and believe Moses when he told them that God would deliver them from Egypt. The text of Exodus tells us that they could not hear because they suffered from a shortness of breath or of spirit, as their souls had been afflicted for too long by the oppression of slavery. It is as if the breath within each one is not enough to sustain their lives and their hopes. They are on the verge of death because they suffer from an insufficiency of breath. The other reference that I find comforting, and I may have shared it with you before, is found in the closing stanza of the poem, Adon Olam, that we recognize as a closing song of our services. And the poem dates at least to the 11th century and possibly the 10th. The words may be familiar to you. Biado afkid ruchi, be'et ishan va'ira, ve'im ruchi geviati, Adonai li velo ira. Into your hands, O God, I commit my spirit, both when I am asleep and when I am awake. And with my spirit, my breath, my body too. Adonai, you are with me. I shall not fear. It speaks to a very different experience of breathing and thinking about the breath as the repository of the soul and spirit, and as relinquishing it to God's keeping upon going to sleep at night. While we understand far too well the shortness of breath experienced by our ancestors, and by far too many in our world at this moment. We long for the assurance, calm, and confidence of the poet, who could nightly lay down his breath, his spirit, into God's hands for safekeeping. So, let us breathe. Let us take that full, deep, restorative, healing breath into our whole bodies. And let us exhale the pain, grief, difficulty, anxiety, concern of these last days and this time we are navigating. Let us sit comfortably with some attentiveness, but with a sense of ease. Let us close our eyes, if that is our practice, or even if we just want to try, or let them rest open without real focus. Let us breathe in that full, deep breath. And let us breathe out the constrictive forces that keep assaulting us. And if you want that exhale to linger a bit, just let it. Let us breathe in a sense of God's presence, the faith, the confidence that we are strengthened and uplifted by a power beyond us. Let us breathe in that strength of the universe. And let us breathe out the insufficiencies we feel in our very souls, the shortness of breath that keeps us from being fully, from realizing completely who and what we are and might be. We breathe in a sense of hope, of optimism, opportunity, possibility. I am sorry. Let us breathe in a sense of hope, of optimism, opportunity, and possibility. And let us breathe out the smallest parts of ourselves, the parts that hijack us and leave us panting for air. Let us let those go. They are limitations on our spirits. They render us small, insufficient. Grasping. Let us breathe in a vision of this world united. As images this week have demonstrated, even in the midst of such pain and grief, there has been a unity of purpose, of intention, of goals. We breathe those in with an expansiveness, a spaciousness within that makes us realize that our hearts can open, can embrace those who are in pain and in grief. And so we breathe out the hatred, violence, denial, destruction that comes too readily to our minds and hearts. Let us breathe that out and breathe it away. Let us remember and breathe in. May I be safe. May I be content. May I be whole. And then let us offer that impulse to our loved ones, those we hold dear and hold close. May they be safe. May they be content. May they be whole. And then the hardest of all, but it encapsulates what each of us needs to do to heal this world. May I find the strength, the room, the largeness of spirit to send out into the world my intention that every human being feels safe, feel content, feel whole. We breathe in. A sense of strength and of confidence that emerges from faith and belief. Biyado afkid ruchi. Into God's hands, I entrust my breath, my spirit. And we let go of that kotzer ruach, that shortness of breath that holds us, keeps us small and unrealized. Be'etishan va'ira. When I sleep and when I wake. Ve'im ruchi geviati, with my spirit, my body also. Adonai li velo ira. God is with me. I shall not fear. I invite you to continue, if you wish. Even after we conclude this part of meditation this week. With the breath, with each breath, for which we give thanks and which reminds us that this is truly our breath of life. We pray for each of us with every breath. May we feel safe. May we feel content. May we feel whole. I wish you a week of breathing fully and easily and gratefully. And I look forward to next time. God bless.